Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Coffee Talk with Encore. Well, you may not be aware of this, but June is National Safety Month. And with that being the case, we've decided to make employee safety and injury prevention the focus of today's discussion. Well, many of us who work in the healthcare settings, we spend so much time focusing on patient safety and preventing patient injuries. Well, sometimes we forget to keep ourselves safe and free from injury when we're at work. Well, today we have a guest joining us who is well-versed in what happens after safety events occur, and that's Carrie McGillis. And Carrie's a senior leave specialist for Encore, and she has a lot of experience helping individuals after those safety events occur, and then helping them go through the process that's all involved with workers' comp claims. Well, Carrie, thank you so much for joining us today and being a part of our coffee talk discussion, and we are certainly glad that you're here. Oh my gosh, we'd love to hear from you today. Can't wait to hear what you have to share with us. Just wonder if maybe you could start off telling us a little bit about yourself and your role within Encore.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is really a pleasure. I am a senior leave specialist for Encore, and so I handle workers' comp and leave of absence claims. So with the workers' comp claims, my main role is to support the employees that have been injured. Many times the people that are in that situation, it's the first time it's happened to them and they're stressed and nervous and aren't sure what to do or what steps to take. So we help guide them through that and just explain how things work and just provide that information that they need to just take one step at a time to get through the whole process. So we will explain things like what the different state laws are for where they work, and how that affects the amount of time that they'll be paid for being off work, or how they cover the medical coverage of the treatment that's needed for their injury. So we just explain all of those types of things to them, make sure that they have the proper documentation that they need, and help coordinate any sick time or PTO time that they might be using. So our goal is just to help them de-stress and to understand the process and take the proper steps.
So, Carrie, we have clinicians that work in every setting within healthcare. And unfortunately, we do see those strains, those trips, those falls, those tears. And we really want our employees to be focusing in on the things that they can do to prevent those injuries for themselves and for their patients. So thinking about those safe transfer techniques, that patient communication, making sure that they have that right approach and can maybe try to prevent some of those common trends.
Yes, that is really important. Some of the common things that we do see in the healthcare industry is a lot of sprains and strains, just from people that are assisting patients that need that extra help or maybe a fall risk. And so they end up, straining their back or pulling something. Another common issue is just wet floors and in the entranceways or near bathrooms or shower areas, and people not expecting that, and those just typical slips and falls. So those are some common things that cause issues. Another important area to think about is just if you're working in a area with a patient that is very tight, if we're trying to transfer them from the bed to the wheelchair or something like that, and you don't have a lot of space, that allows, for more opportunities for injuries because they can't get into the right position. So we really encourage the employees to try to take time to assess the situation that they're in and that they're approaching, and get the assistance they needed, whether that be from a coworker or some type of equipment to help them, perform the duties they need to do safely, and to not rush through it, to sort of take that time to make sure that they are thinking about all the little steps that they need to take and prevent anything from happening.
Now, some of those injuries that you just mentioned sound like they could be preventable, right? So there's just steps that we need to take. So it's important that because we do work in healthcare where, injuries do happen to employees, we need to try to lessen that risk as much as we can. And part of that is quick reporting. So when an injury happens, it's important that we make sure that we are reporting it quickly because as I said, as Carrie said, some of these are preventable. So if there's a policy or procedure or some sort of strategy that we could do as a company, that we could change in order to prevent injury, that would be best. We don't want our employees getting injured, or we might find as we're kind of digging through to see what happened that we might already have a policy in place and it's just not being followed. So it's really important to know kind of what's happening rather quickly so that we're able to to look into it and see what we can do as a company to prevent more injuries.
Yes, that's exactly right. We ask that employees provide the incident reports from the incident that happened within 24 hours. So that allows us, it gives us so many advantages. It allows us to properly support the employee. We can provide them with information about where they can find a doctor that will, treat them and will take a workers' comp coverage. We can also make sure that we're doing a proper investigation of what happened quickly before things sort of change and memories, change and fade. So, that is just very important for us to get that quickly. The other thing that's very important is that employees report any injury, even if it's small. Oftentimes people think, oh, I just have a little back strain. It's just hurting a little bit. I'll take some ibuprofen. I'll be fine. And then all of a sudden, a couple of days later, it's getting worse and they're not feeling well. And the work that they've done since then has sort of aggravated the injury and made it worse. And I've seen this happen over and over again, unfortunately, and people even end up having to have surgery because of this type of thing. So that really affects their income. It affects the staffing at their facility. And it just makes everything more complicated, and it ends up taking a lot longer for the person to get back to work. So we really encourage people, even if you think it's a minor injury, to report it right away. And also to report near misses. If you see like something could have happened, like you slip and you almost fall, but you didn't, or you sort of recognize, gosh, this is just an accident waiting to happen. Those kinds of things are very important to report so that we can, take those steps to talk to the people that can make the changes in either policies or equipment or environment, or whatever it is, so that we can prevent injuries for that employee and other employees.
Doesn't that make sense? I mean, I'm just thinking about as you're talking, like all of the times that, maybe an incident happened in a department to one person, but really the whole department can learn from it. They can learn, what can we do to change things and make it better and prevent another, incident from occurring down the road for another individual in the department. I'm also thinking about the fact that I've read that, in the healthcare industry, healthcare workers far exceed, the number of injuries that take place when they're at work than any other industry out there. And so again, we kind of go back to that, initial, conversation we began with, is that our healthcare employees, we work so hard to keep the patient safe, keep them from hurting themselves, keeping them from falling, that we kind of sometimes forget about ourselves and what we need to do to keep ourselves safe and free from injury. So I'm so glad that we're able to have this conversation today and, talk about these things. And hopefully somebody will think, the next time they go to work with a patient, like, oh, what am I doing to help myself stay safe as well? So great conversation for sure. Well, I do want to thank Carrie for joining us today. Absolutely some great information that we've been able to share about employee safety and injury prevention. And I do want to thank everyone else for also listening in. We look forward to having you tune again for our next episode of Coffee Talk with Encore.